Very good.
All
Either
right,
way.
6 o'clock, we're going to call the meeting to
Come
order.
on, Ryan.
Let's all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, thank you for all coming here today, and I would ask you to introduce yourselves, but then we'll be here for another half an hour or so. I do have a large stack of papers for items from the floor, and so before we get to that, that'll be the first item of business. I'm going to read our public comment script. This is the policy that we've adopted as the school board in terms of the policies and procedures in which items from the floor will be presented. Our board has adopted policy procedure 1400 and 1400P, meeting conduct, order of business, and quorum. This policy and procedure are available on the school district website. By adopting this policy, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and business-like manner. This means that whether we are school directors, district staff, students, members of the community, or some other guests, we all must follow the same standard of civility during school board meetings. Generally, the first item of business at every regular board meeting is public comment period, which we will have here in a moment, which is something we value. This is an opportunity for visitors to be recognized and make brief comments. We have a sign-in sheet for those who wish to speak. This allows us to call you forward. If we have members of the public who are attending remotely and would like to speak, please enter your name in the text box and we will call on you. Here's some general reminders, things to keep in mind. The total time for public comment period is X amount of minutes. We don't have
Three.
Yeah, so 3 minutes per presentation. So keep that in mind. We're gracious, so we'll keep it 3-ish, but please try and keep your comments about 3 minutes. There's no mechanism whereby a speaker can donate some or all their time to another speaker. No individual may speak more than once per regular meeting, even if there is time remaining. Public comment period is an opportunity for the board to listen to individuals on educational issues, and board members are encouraged to listen attentively. However, public comment period is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public. The board will not respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during public comment period, and there will be no back and forth dialogue. So keep that in mind. All questions that you have for us, we'll receive and take into consideration. We will take note. These are all some of the things that you might present to us we have never heard before. And so we're hearing for the first time. And so we're trying to digest the comments that come in. That way we can convene at a later time and discuss what you've talked about, research and look into it. So this is not a time for making rush decisions. So just keep that in mind as you're presenting your information. Finally, please remember that your words have impact on you, not the school district. You are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers that it is possible that your statement could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effect of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what a respectful and inclusive community looks and sounds like. So again, thank you for your interest in the business of the school. The first public comment is Rod Breckner.
You want me to pass these out?
To the community members of Deer Park and the Deer Park School Board, I'm Rod Breckner. I raised here in Deer Park, graduated from Deer Park High School, where I was very active in sports and FFA. I received the top honor in the FFA, the American degree. Only 3 to 4% of all kids receive that. I never left the community. This is where I wanted to raise my family. I got married Brought my wife out here. We raised 3 wonderful kids. 2 of them have already graduated from Deer Park High School and have also received their American degrees. The last one, he's graduating this year and is in pursuit of his American degree, which you have to receive after you graduate from high school. Since around 2014, I volunteered my time in many ways to the FFA Kids, Skills USA, the Clayton Community Fair. I have vast knowledge of how the program runs and love volunteering my time to help in any capacity that I can. I'll start with reading the Deer Park School District's mission statement. Deer Park School will provide excellent education opportunities for all students, maintaining a steadfast commitment to quality instruction, high expectations, and positive relationships. This work will be carried out in a safe and respectful environment, rooted in family and community values and focused on inspiring students to excel in a changing world. With that, I write to express my great concerns regarding the behavior of Jerry Ashby, who currently holds a seat as an elected official on the Deer Park School Board. In the history of our Deer Park and the history of our district, there has never been a board member who has actively sought out legal action against employees, community volunteers based on false accusations and unsustainable claims. While serving as the FFA Booster president, Jerry filed formal complaints with the national, state FFA organizations, OSPI, Attorney General, and spokesman and Spokane County Sheriff, accusing the FFA boosters of mishandling funds raised for the program. As a result, the investigation was launched and all individuals named in the complaint were interviewed, except for Jerry, who refused to cooperate with the process. The case was ultimately dismissed as no validity was found in any of the allegations. He also withheld information on renewals, then called to see if we renewed them on time. Despite this, Jerry escalated matters by claiming to contact Horizon Credit Union, attempting to freeze the FFA Boosters account through what he claimed was the crimes division. Lacking any authority over the account, his efforts were unsuccessful. Nevertheless, he instructed the Clayton Community Fair to withhold the proceeds from the sale of the booster hog until the investigation concluded, depriving the FFA kids of the funds they earned for over 6 months. During the entirety of his tenure as booster president, throughout the investigation, the boosters, my family, and I were subject to verbal threats of further action by Jerry after the boosters voted to remove him from his position. With his lack of understanding of parliamentary procedure, refused to accept the legitimate operations of the FFA boosters, leading him to file multiple public records requests in the effort to further his personal agenda of creating disruption and chaos. This sustained harassment has caused significant emotional stress and anxiety for my entire family. Our youngest child, a senior this year and an active FFA member, has had his and other FFA kids' experiences tainted by these actions. Our FFA chapter members have also witnessed his unprofessional behavior at booster meetings when they've come to share or present to the boosters. It takes a dedicated staff, actively involved parents, and a strong supporting community to maintain a successful program like the Deer Park FFA chapter. Deer Park is recognized locally, regionally, and nationally for their excellence of this program, an achievement made possible through years of hard work by so many. To witness the damage caused by the actions of a single individual undermining the integrity of so many committed people is distressing and cannot be tolerated. How can someone with a clear pattern of decisive behavior and deceit in pursuit of personal vendettas continue to serve in the position of trust and influence? Jerry's actions demonstrate a lack of concern for the welfare of our students and the school district, and a profound disrespect for the employees and volunteers who have dedicated themselves to the legacy of the FFA. It is worth noting that Jerry is not only removed from the boosters, but other community organizations have also taken similar steps due to harm caused by his conduct. For the sake of our district, it is in the best interest of all he be removed from the school board as well. In light of the above, I hereby make a public request for the immediate resignation of Jerry Allen. Thank you.
Next is Carrie Breckman.
I don't know if Joy needs this. I'm just asking for a public records request for a public records request for all of Jerry Ashby's public records requests submitted to the Deer Park School District. If you need any specifics, just earliest to latest. Do you need this? Zoom forward. Okay, I uploaded it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, EOZ 4193 Enoch Road.
Yes, wait.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I was a little kid up at Clayton School when we got consolidated with Deer Park. And I spent all 12 years here in Deer Park School District, and I loved every bit of it. I've been a supporter of the FFA. I'm a retired farmer and a dairy farmer, lo and behold. Anyway, we have two sons go through the school district and everything's fine. And with Jerry causing such a problem with the FFA, it really ticked me off. He's so angry, and he's a piece of doo-doo. So I don't want to say too much more because I better not. So anyway, he needs to be out of here immediately.
Barry Lobster.
Yeah, hopefully be back at the podium.
Wherever you want, Matt, wherever you want. Yeah.
All right. So I didn't think I was going to be able to be here tonight, so I actually emailed you guys all. It's probably going to be more thorough, but I'll give for the rest of the room a bit of a highlight of why I'm here tonight. Been part of the community since middle school. My wife's multi-generation here. We both grew up playing varsity sports here at Deer Park, multi-lettering, love the Deer Park community. And as our boys are getting into the community, into the sports, we're really having a lot of trouble with booking facilities. And I don't mean one time an accident, messing up. I mean, year after year, this problem has gone on, working with different groups, and it's not just one sport. It's not just my boys play football and basketball, and we've had that personally. But my nieces play in different sports. We're having it for boys and girls. We're having it for community events. We cannot get facilities and book it for the people in this community if they're not part of our direct schools. So any of the sports that are feeding our middle school, high school, where sports start and begin, we have many more, I'm sure, going to talk here tonight. but my boys are in 4-year tackle football. We can't get fields. Last year, finally, after pointing out that the fields were not going to be used anymore, they let us use the field once last year. This year, same thing. We've been trying to work with them for months, cannot get a field. And finally, after kind of giving you guys the heads up, get some traction and we can use the facilities maybe, but it's too late. And I just think it's a big mistake to not consider our younger youth and those sports-minded kids, and even some other events, the Junior Miss and the Daddy-Daughter dances have been denied access to the gyms. It's extremely difficult to schedule with the schools. You get the runaround. No, that's not mine. That's someone else. You call that next person. You get someone else. And it's weeks and months and just a big runaround. And then they make you pay for it. And I think that is another big issue that we have here. You guys are going out for a bond. I am all for it. I think that our school district absolutely needs to pass this bond. And I even helped with the first round. But being out there in the community doesn't want it, because we're not community minded to the people who are going to need these facilities, who want to use these facilities. And I think that that is a huge mistake and a huge show of historically how our heart and our posture is towards the community. That needs to change. So I don't know if it's our policies. I don't know if it's conversations with different people, all of these different, maybe it's the same person. But we've got to figure out how to get the community pride back. And I think that by denying all these young kids access and access to facilities, I will say also, a lot of this started as anger, a little frustration. I'm incredibly ashamed after going down to Riverside and watching them roll out the red carpet for our boys in 4U, in 6U, in 7U, 4U, 5-6 combo, and the 7Us. That's my other son's. But they rolled out the carpet for us. They opened up the field. They had concessions there. They had the bathrooms open. They used the scoreboard. They played music for our boys and made it feel like they wanted them to be there. And we couldn't even get our field use once. Last year, one of my 5th graders' favorite things last year was playing during the Battle of the Horns. Absolutely loved it. It was his highlight. We were told no. Now I understand that we now have that scheduled in, but for the last 3 months, that was a no, absolute no. And I think that is just an absolute mistake, that we are denying these cheerleaders, these football players, these basketball players access to our gyms, access to our fields. Totally understand the high school kids need to come first. We need to get those scheduled. We need to get the middle school teams scheduled first. But it's either a complete incompetence that we can't do that in advance and have these fields ready and let people know what times are available, these gyms are availability, or it's just laziness. I don't know. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. Maybe there's some other legitimate excuse, but to me, it's depressing, right? You watch it as we travel to these other school districts, and I mean, I love Deer Park, but I'm second guessing whether we're going to put our kids in the Deer Park School District leagues. I mean, that's where I'm at. Like, that's so frustrating to me. Why would I want to put my kids in this community and let them play sports here when they don't want them to play here? So I would suggest reconsidering it and making a very strong stance towards pro community. And please hear us. You guys are not hearing us on the bond. We don't want to pay more taxes. And if you're going to spend it on ball fields and things that we can't use, we're just going to be even more mad, right? So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Alrighty. So, kind of piggybacking off of Jared a little bit, I did write a letter to the community for the football. I was born and raised in Deer Park, graduated from Deer Park, played sports all through Deer Park. I did move up to Loon Lake, but I've started a business here back in Deer Park. My kids are old enough that they're coming back to the Deer Park school. And when I grew up, this town was my favorite place to be. The community, the togetherness. When we had home games, I mean, there was pep rallies, there was huge parades parading these boys back up to the high school. There was the community, like hot dogs. It was so fun. This community pepped our kids up so much. And that we really need to like concentrate on bringing that back, because my kids are going to school and, you know, me and the parents, we're like way more pumped than even anybody that works there. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, we got to get these kids riled, because if they feel good when they hit that field, then they're going to play well. And if they don't have that pep and that backing and everything, then what are they there for? And so then my son, again, is playing football, and I'm like, hey, what's up with Battle of the Horns? They're like, no. I'm like, what? Like, we go to Deer Park, we're playing Battle of the Horns. And they're like, well, we get a new field, but we can't play on it. And I'm like, I get that we have a new field, like, you know, construction going on. I totally get it. But we got to have something for those littles to look forward to, because they're a future team, you know? So if they're playing, you know, all these games for what? To play for Riverside, that's where our home field and where we're accepted is. And I'm like, I'm not playing at Riverside. Like, we go to Deer Park. This is not okay. But like Jared said, I mean, they had the music going. They were pumped that we were there, and those kids annihilated that team. I kind of got to give them props on that, because they played so well, because they were accepted and they were pumped, and they were at home. And that's a big deal. Like, you know, when you play at home, you're way more pumped. Your community's there. Your team's rallying you up. And our community isn't there right now. And it really is sad. And like, we have this bond coming up. I just saw today that they reduced the amount, because it's not going to pass. And that is crazy. Our town is growing, but our community is lessening. There's way more people than there ever was when I was growing up. I came through in 2004. That's when I graduated. And our town was such a good community. Settlers, yeah, they're finally, you know, coming together for us. You know, we have these little things that are finally coming back together. But our school should be our heart. We have got to make our school our heart. And our sports, I'm sorry to say, but that is the heart of a school, is your sports, your FFA, your groups that are your solids, because those are the after school. Those are those kids' lives. Those are the parents' lives. We live for our kids, and for our kids to be proud of what they're doing in their school. And so, you know, I mean, Darren Schroeder, he has a sign up. Jessica Fielder has a sign up, you know, pepping these kids up. But where's the parents coming from? Where's the school board? Where's the, you know, all of the people together to pep all of these kids up, to pep the parents up, to get the parents more involved? When I was at Loon Lake, I had a soccer league up there. I brought flyers to the schools, and I said, hey, can you hand these out? Nope, that's not a responsibility. Like, okay, all right. I know that when we were trying to get kids for football, we took the flyers to the schools. Not your job. Yeah, this is our job. This is definitely our job. Do we want our kids to be playing sports young so that when they get up here, these, you know, junior high and high school coaches don't have to literally teach our kids how to play? I have coached many years. I've coached t-ball. I've coached coach pitch, softball. I've coached soccer, and I didn't even play soccer because there was no volunteers, but I coached it because you want your kids to play sports. You want them to have community involvement. You know, you've got to do all that. But if we don't have the backing for it, then what do we have? We have a school where you go do your schoolwork. That's what we have. Deer Park used to be an amazing community. We can be an amazing community. We have way more people than we've ever had, like more than I am on, but we're not going there. So I don't know how we need to all come together. And another thing, like Jared said, when we were practicing, there's nowhere to practice. And then like there's no point of contact for anybody. You try and schedule a field and so has it, and that's fine. That's great. That's fine. But who do we call? How do we go about all of that? How do we fix the problem of having facilities for kids to practice, for kids to play, to host tournaments, to bring our teams back to our town?
Amanda, one moment.
Okay, sorry. I did prepare this letter, and it kind of just goes over, bringing that we need to pass this levy, and the community isn't seeing the together. They're not seeing the school for anything more than they're sending their kids to school right now. So as a community, as a board, as the parents, as you guys, we gotta get together and we gotta figure things out. And we gotta show the community what our facilities are doing for us and the kids. That's all.
Nicole?
Hi, I'm both of my boys are in the different school district. And both of them are also involved in sports. This is also kind of going off what Jared said and Amanda. And we play sports all year round. And we have been playing football the longest, 4 years now. And it is the same. There's not a lot of support from the schools or the community. I remember when the smoke was really bad and we needed a place to practice. They would not allow us to practice in the gym. We actually ended up practicing in a church in North Spokane so that they could continue to have that practice. I think we did that entire week. And then practice was even canceled a few times because the high school would not allow us to use the facilities. We've done car washes, and the community members that come through the car wash, they are amazing. They get out of their car while the kids are washing, trying to raise funds for their sports. And they're talking to us and they're so excited, asking when the games are. And that feels so good. And it would be really amazing if the schools would show our boys and girls how much they appreciated them as well, because these are going to be their kids. They're going to come up, they're going to play for middle school, they're going to play for high school. And I don't know about everybody else, but my son's bedroom is stag stuff everywhere. And I'm not talking about, we bought it from the schools. He's making things that say Stags. Number one, he is so proud to be a Stag. He is so proud to play football, to play baseball, to be a wrestler. And it is everywhere in his room. And this year, we felt that we could feel the pushback from not a single one of our home games was at Deer Park. We understand the bleachers were being done, but that's not different from many years past. Just like Jared said, like Amanda said, when our first home game was at Riverside, they came out, they announced for our boys, they played music for them. They were so excited. And it's so sad that that's not being reflected by the schools themselves, where these kids go and they're working really hard. And I really wish that it could all be a collective thing, because we're working hard for them to be able to do these sports, and for them, we're driving them to practice and, making sure that they are on their grades. We're doing our part as the team member of the parent with the teachers. And it would be really great if the school district as a whole could do their part with those as well. And it's sad and it's frustrating. And we really hope that in the future that they can be embraced from when they're little to even when they are in high school. That's it.
Thank you. Travis?
I think a lot of things have been said well already. Like Nicole said, it's been 4 years of of this going on. It's been an issue. I've heard excuses as far as the athletic director saying no. Who is he to say that we can't use our facilities that are being paid for by our taxes? I've heard things about the coach saying that we can't use the field. And then just another thing that kind of popped in my head is the grass alone. How is that such a mess? Kids can't even, you look at the soccer fields at the middle school or the elementary school, there's grass everywhere. Why can't the grass get cut? They play soccer games there. They do practices there. The lack of care and for the fields or even the students and the kids playing sports, I think is pretty depressing, and it should be addressed most definitely. And a lot of things have been said well. I don't think I really have a whole lot else to say about that, and just like to add on to it and let you know that I'm on the same boat.
Thank you. Last one, Janae, am I saying that right?
It's Janai, but that's okay.
Okay.
They kind of already said everything, but I just want to say, like, as you guys support the community will support you. That's it.
That's the last of the public statements. I want to thank you guys for being here and showing interest. We do have one more. Okay, we have one more. That's a big reason why we're here, why we signed up for this, so that we can hear the voice of the people and we can participate in that, and we can work along with our superintendent. So we hear you and we thank you for being here. Last one is Andy Reed.
Yeah, so I'm talking the same topic as all these guys about the being able to use the Deer Parks facilities. I'm one of the coaches, of course, when you guys. Yeah, the biggest thing is we're trying so hard to build a program. We're all volunteer coaches. We're working our butts off, and to get such resistance from the school district, and it's not just the fields. It's like I said, the flyers and all those things. It's tough. It's tough for us to build a program. You're not these kids. I mean, what are they doing if they're not after school? What are they doing if they're not doing sports? If they're not doing FFA? You know, it's important for them to be able to do those things. And then on the levy, you guys, you're asking taxpayers to pay more dollars on the levy to improve facilities, but you won't let current taxpayers' kids play on the current facilities. And it seems like, I don't know, that seems like that's pretty much counterintuitive for what you guys should be doing, or what the school district should be doing on that. Cameron stated in the past, we can't because it's not a turf field, but all these other fields are playing on. We're borrowing Mount Spokane's field, we're borrowing Riverside's fields. They're letting us play on their high school fields. They don't have turf. Like, it's not, there's no difference there. And then the other one is the distribution of the flyers. We were told we have to use Peach Jar in order to do that, and I have to pay money. And we're all, like I said, it's nonprofit. We don't have any money, so we can't afford to go Peach Jar and pay for that. And we're up against teams that have like 30 players. We just played a team that had 30 players, and we have 19. It was a battle of attrition. We lost that game because we couldn't get enough kids, because we can't recruit kids out of the school district. So it just seems tough, and hopefully you guys will make some changes here in the near future.
Thank you. Any more, Joanne? Again, thank you all for sharing. Now we have the superintendent's report.
Okay, I have just a few pieces, and then I'm going to have the schools come up and share their school improvement plans. One, just talking about the bus garage, the internet's been down, which is tied to the phones. And so what I guess I didn't realize is a part of the necessity for the transportation center is that with the internet down, the phones are down too, and that creates a safety issue and concern for students. Right now we use CenturyLink, and CenturyLink has been hit and miss. They don't have weekend in-person support. So we've been working with them, but now that landlines are kind of a dissolving, a dying breed, for lack of better terms, they're not as supported as much as the cell phone use. So we rely on the internet services for the transportation center, which would be an advantage to moving it closer to the elementary so that we could connect it via fiber. So right now, I didn't realize that was a safety concern for parents who need to reach the bus garage, or the bus garage needing to connect with parents. Middle school is going to be getting a new copier, DPE in Arcadia.
Back on the transportation, is Carrie got a cell phone?
She does.
And her assistant?
I don't know. I assume, but we don't ask that they use it. to call parents, I guess, in an emergency, yes.
Right, but do we have a backup so that now that the phone service is out or the CenturyLink is out?
It's off and on, it's hit and miss.
So how do parents reach Carrie or the assistant?
It's tough. That's been a challenge.
Do we need to publish that cell phone number? Is that cell phone number bought by the
That's her
school?
personal cell phone, so we need to be really
Do
careful.
we need to get a cell phone number for her then? That's,
So potentially we can look into that.
okay, well, I think we need to.
So, in terms of just moving on to the copy machines, DPE and Arcadia have been replaced in prior years. So if you see an expense for a new copier, it's for the middle school. They're getting one, should be in this week. We've talked about the camera system. It's a 3-year plan when we're looking at that. Year one this year is dedicated to looking at systems that are sustainable. Looking at the future right now, it's kind of predicting the future in terms of looking at storage, power, camera clarity, et cetera. So we're in year one of a 3-year project to replace the cameras and the system that we've talked about that before. We are working on the facilities use online process to make sure that we are transparent and fair and equitable. Anytime we launch a new system or a new process, there's always more than meets the eye, and there's very fine-grained pieces that need to be taken care of. We have more kids participating in athletics, and I think that kind of threw us off last year with like 8 volleyball teams at the middle school. So we as internally were scrambling for space as well. And I know we've had some internal conversations about facilities use, just meeting the needs of our own teams, especially during winter sports. We've got a lot of football teams this year. So again, we're working on trying to predict the future in terms of teams and what the facilities uses are for our own kids, but we're working on that. That's in the works. One of the things when you go from a paper process to an electronic process is it forces you to clean up your processes and really look at the processes, really scrutinize it. So I'm looking forward to getting this facilities use online process off the ground and running so that all of our facilities can be transparent and accessible for our community. The hope was to have it ready to go by the beginning of this year, but there's a lot of nuts and bolts and brass tacks pieces that we have to work out first. And we need to all get on the same page internally.
Who's our representative, like the focal point? From what I heard from the audience, is there's a lot of red tape of getting to the right person.
Right.
It's like we need one person who could be that focal point to be able to connect
And
this
it's
community.
going to be a process. So when we go electronic, let's say that you're asking to use Deer Park Elementary, you're going to start at that elementary place and space to make sure that you can see when that building is
Right,
acceptable.
but there's still a person who oversees that. Who's
Facilities and maintenance right now.
It's what?
Yeah. And the person who used to do it is retired.
Okay.
And so we have a gap right there.
Okay.
Right now. But when we're building this online system, we need to look at the processes and where it starts, who it goes to next. We need to look at timeline. Is it a year out? Is it 6 months out? We need to talk about kind of the rules of engagement, right? So, and it was alluded to tonight, but that we have to take care of our middle school and high school kids in those athletics and facilities first. But then is it clear that if we have a game canceled or for whatever reason, the weather, or they can't get to us or whatever, and we have to reschedule, that outside groups are bumped for our teams, that the custodial and OT pieces that we're paying for, that's all that people are paying for, but we have to because we can't gift public funds to outside for-profit entities. Does that make sense? So they'd be making money off of our own employees, but they're paid for by our taxpayer dollars. So we get into some auditing and some legal issues with those pieces. But again, to all of your points, we need to be transparent and clear about what those processes are. So this online process should force us to be crystal clear on the expectations.
But nothing still beats the personalized touch of being able to reach a person and ask questions that you can't get from an online service.
True.
Right? You go on online service and you got questions, and I don't know if there's an email point of contact, but you still have that touch.
Correct. And in the past, it's been facilities maintenance.
Okay, so who could do that now?
So right now it would be Jen Todd.
Okay.
She's sitting at facilities and maintenance, but she's in the process of learning what that process is. But we're also in the process of migrating to that online system.
Okay.
So we're working on it. I hear you. We'll get there. I hear you very clearly.
And Alexa, this has been a problem. I coached for 14 years at Deer Park. It's not something new. It's just there's so many moving parts, even one person to do it. And then you throw in game, like I'll use softball for an example in the spring, trying to schedule the games, but the games get rained out. Then we bump Little League games. Then we do other. So it's not really easy no matter how it is. And I coached football for a long time, Pop Warner football, and we had the same issues back then. But if it rains a little bit, all of a sudden the field goes bad, and then we have varsity sports playing on our football field in the mud. So school always has to come first. That was the thing. It's been that way forever, and I feel all those folks' pain, but I also feel that they need to understand that we try really hard. Our staff tries really hard to make things happen. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks. Just update on the softball field. If you haven't driven back behind, the fencing's up, the backstop is up, the foundation for the dugouts is up, asphalt has been laid, and irrigation is complete. So we're making a lot of progress on the softball field. Press box, the electrical pieces were supposed to be fixed today, so those should be up and ready and going for Friday. Also good news, middle school's here, but wanted to share with you that they're striping 10 pickleball courts, which will be available for community use. I was at a city hall meeting a couple years ago, and that was a wish, want, and desire by some of our community members. So we will have 10 pickleball courts that will be ready to go by spring.
Is that in the existing tennis courts?
Yes. They do it for PE too, but it'll be available for the community as well.
Are we using the same asphalt, or are we overlaying it?
They're filling it. So they're filling the cracks to the best of their ability. Re-striping the tennis courts, putting tennis courts, which will require portable nets, which the pickleball group.
So that's good news. Okay. And that's all I have in terms of school improvement plans. We're going to go reverse order this year. So we're going to start with the high school and then go to the middle school and then Arcadia and then DP and then HomeLink. So I have copies for everybody. What? Did I forget somebody? Okay. So I have copies for everybody. Here is high school, their addendum. And then here's all of them together. And you received this in your packet last week. And then here is HomeLink. And then I'll save the next one for the next conversation.
I was just going to add, I'm sure these great people, I know many of them, would love to hear school improvement plans, but in case that they don't, they're not being rude if they leave. I've noticed dismissal if they chose to. They're welcome to stay. I'm happy to entertain. I'm sure they're
have fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Getting out of football here shortly. So.
Yeah. All right. Gotcha. Yeah. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, high school, you want to come on up?
Good evening, everyone. So each of us are going to take a moment, and we're kind of starting in first order this year. So I'm up first. I'm Brett Hewitt, principal at the high school. Thank you, Layla, for a clap. I appreciate that. So when we design our school improvement plans, ours is like about 12 pages long. So I'm not going to sit here and go through all 12 pages with you tonight. We've been asked to just kind of give a snapshot of some of the highlights of what we're working on at the school. And what I'm really going to focus in on is me being new this year, and Mr. Han new in his role. I'm moving from the classroom to be an assistant principal. Some of the things that we're taking and kind of tweaking and just making some little changes to with how we do business at the high school. And we stayed in line with the goals set by at the district level. So first goal being around academic excellence, second one around climate and culture and student well-being, and then goal 3 around families in the community. So the first one with academic excellence as a district, and I'm sure you'll hear it again tonight, is a refocus on our PLC work and our collaboration to improve our our instruction in the classroom for our kids so that we're doing the best that we can possibly for all of our kids in the classroom. We work closely with our leadership team, which for the high school is all of our department coordinators, group of about 13 folks. And everything that we're talking about tonight has kind of been worked through with them in that collaboration. For us, we really kind of sit down and with our leadership team and also really took a tight look at our commitments and what we're truly committed to. With that piece also, we've made some schedule changes. So our PLCs, if you don't know, they meet every Wednesday morning for the high school. We meet at 7 o'clock each morning before the kids get there. And then also, as we all know, we do a late start, a 1 hour late start on that last Wednesday in each month. So we took a tighter look at how we schedule this out. So the first Wednesday for us now is full department time. The 2 weeks in between is now more content central. So it's a lot smaller groups of our teachers working together. And then we do that fourth one is now grade level meetings. So in the past, we used to really focus in just a lot of efforts on our 9th grade work with our students. And to be honest, a lot of our students that are maybe struggling a little bit and to bring up and kind of brainstorm best ways to support them. So now we're doing that with each of our grade levels. And so our staff is spread out on that last Wednesday. So we kind of restructured how we schedule things so that we're really talking about all of our kids, not just kind of that focus on the 9th grade piece. Graduation rate is always going to be a top priority, right? We've always, for many years, we strive to be above 90%. So we're at 92% last year, and we're going to work to maintain that and try to be better than that. Our 9th grade on track, meaning our freshmen, the percentage of our freshmen that complete their freshman year with no Fs, so that they are staying on track. Because anytime you fail one class in high school with 24 credits, and we're a 6-period day with 4 credits, or when you do the math over 4 years, 24, you don't have any room to be failing class. And so with that, our 9th grade on track percentage last year was 89%. And I looked back, you can look back on the report card through OSPI. So 10 years ago, our 9th grade on track was 73%. So we had a quarter of our kids 10 years ago that had an F beginning of that first year of school. This year we only had 17 kids in our whole freshman class. So something we're proud of, but we're going to continue to try to get into the 90% as we move forward. We are looking at a new program. It's in the baby stages right now. We're just talking about doing something for our students that are really struggling in school. We're going to be kind of pulling them in at lunchtime. We're still going to allow them to eat during lunch. It's not going to just be academics, but offering some support and some tutoring. That will be myself, our admin team, our counseling group, going in and offering extra time and support to those students, and really maximizing the time that we have the kids at school to try to help them with that time. Just so you know, our weekly every Monday morning, coming off the weekend, we start with a special education meeting. So we spend about 20 minutes with our special education teachers, talking through anything around that topic, any students that we need to talk about. And we also meet with our intervention team, which is a whole bunch of us sitting around the table, to our school nurse, to our counselors, to us as admin, and our intervention specialists that we have at the school. So we do that every Monday. That's how we start our week, to kind of get on track with the kids that we need to be focusing in on. Goal number 2 around the climate piece, our inclusion efforts in getting students with our IEPs. It's super important for us that they get into the general classroom as much as possible. It's not the best setting for all kids, the most appropriate at times, but we do our best to have students with IEPs get into those general classrooms. Our goal is 65%, and we're close. This last year, we were at 62% in working to reduce the amount of kind of pull out and separate kind of things, and really include those kids in our general setting. Staff one-on-one meetings. Last spring, I sat down with every staff member in our school, with me transitioning into my new role, and spent some time just talking through them. What are we doing well? What can we do better at? Kind of a thing. So took time. but it was well worth it. I'm going to be doing that again here in January, and then I'll do it again at the end of the spring. I really want to personalize that piece, and I think it's super important to get to know our staff and to allow them time with me individually to kind of share how they feel like school's going. It's been in the news with a lot of school districts. We've tightened up on our cell phone policy, and it's they will attest to this. It's gone really well, actually, and I think the kids know that we are one cohesive team, and there's not a weak link in that armor with the staff, and we're really holding to that. Really, it's pretty basic. The phones are off and away when we're in class. Outside of that, we're not policing the hallways, we're not policing lunchtime, before school, after school, that kind of thing. And it's actually been a really good thing. We also have vape sensors now, us in the middle school have them. For us, the first couple of days that we had it, Mr. Han and our security, we got about 60 emails that were popping to us. But over time, kids are realizing that it's really a thing and they work. And we're catching people and that kind of thing. So the amount has reduced. Chad does a lot of the work on that, along with Nathan Roberts, our security person. They do a nice job, and Joyce in attendance. But the number has reduced, and so they are being effective for us. I created a student advisory group this year, which is a group of very diverse. I basically took all of our clubs and grabbed one kid from each of our different clubs so that we have a very diverse group. And then Chad and I and Cam, we sit down and meet with that group once a month. Sometimes we're gonna have questions for them. Sometimes we're gonna let them ask us questions. It's really just to kind of get a feel for how school going, you know, how with all the different things that are going on, make us aware of anything that's starting to pop up, you know, from the student perspective, and really get that student voice piece. Assemblies, I'm a big believer in the school spirit piece and the assemblies. I was a leadership teacher, ASB activities in my past role before I got into admin. So it's super important that our kids, we're probably gonna have monthly assemblies. Sometimes staff doesn't like that as far as losing that class time, but I feel like super important. And we have homecoming week this week. We just had our first assembly for this week. It went really well today. Kids did a great job. And I just feel like the more times that we can do that, I'm in agreement with sometimes, so we don't get bogged down in too much school kind of things. Our memories in school for all of us, if you remember back, were assemblies, they were sports, they were activities, those kinds of things. So that's a super important part. Our counselors, just that one-on-one touch, they met with every single one of our 11th and 12th graders individually in the last month or so. Just really talking about post-secondary, getting a feel for where our students are wanting to go after high school and how we can best meet their needs, looking at their high school and beyond plan individually with them. That took a lot of time, but I think it was a huge benefit for us as a school. And I think the kids were impressed that the counselors were taking that time out of their day. They literally just sat outside the classroom and pulled one kid out at a time and had those conversations. Goal 3 is around families and community. Last year, we started doing 3-week progress reports to get emailed home to all of our students and staff, our students and their parents, just to keep that constant out there. Kids weren't a big fan of that right away, but the teachers did notice. We got lots of positive comments that homework and some other things started rolling in a little better because they had parents on the backside helping us out and joining with us and teaming with us. We do, in our CTE department, we have an advisory committee that meets a couple times a year. We have a parent advisory committee that I'll be meeting with now that I have our school improvement plan up to date. We'll be meeting here coming up. We do 2 of those right now per year. And then another added touch for this year is during conference times, we're going to be a little more on the side of educating our parents in regards to some specific areas. So we're going to offer parent workshops. So parents will still come and go around the classrooms, talk to the teachers, but our counselors are going to plan some FAFSA financial aid workshops, some college and the career pathways, the skill center and trades, and really focusing on those pieces. And then we're really working to boost our college and the high school if I'm being honest, so that we're losing less students to a running start type program. We want the kids to stay with us and be earning college credit at the high school. So we're slowly growing those as well. We're going to be adding a couple new classes to that mix this year. So in a nutshell, there's lots of stuff we can talk for hours about some things in high school, but any questions?
More of a comment, from a firsthand perspective. I have a student who's in the IEP program, Sophia.
Yep.
And I can just say, and this is for some of the other teachers as well and principals, that the IEP program through every step of her education has been exceptional, better than we could dream of. The opportunities that have been available to her and to us have been just exceptional. So in terms of the inclusion effort, and now at the high school level, it's just, again, it's better than we could have hoped for. And I just want to applaud all of you, Troy, applaud you and the high school and your efforts to include those IEP students and all students, but from my perspective, especially IEP.
Well, we have an amazing group of teachers that work with in that department. And like I said, we start out every Monday, 7:45, and everybody's there. Nobody misses. So it's important to them.
I have one more. So comment, I've got one question, one comment. Question is, did you say 62% or 65% inclusion?
We're at 62. Our goal has been 65.
Okay,
Left-hand yeah.
And then the other part about it is how you're incorporating, the parents' career pathway. Thank you for hearing us, because I know that was a conversation about communities and understanding and the ability to learn and get back to that too. So thankful for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. 6 through 8. Middle school.
Greg, I know you said that the community couldn't donate their time, but I donated most of mine to Troy. So I'm going to go pretty short. No, Tim Oletti, middle school principal, 14th year. We base our school off of our mission. Our value statement is 3 words: Ohana, which means family. You want to go?
I don't know it.
Oh, come on. And Mua, which means to press forward and persevere. And then Laulima, which means staying connected, working together, and being hand in hand in the process. So our 3 goals fit seamlessly with those words. Our first one, in line with the district and the other schools, is academic excellence. We strive to be above the state average in all academic areas. And once again, we did achieve that this past year as measured by state tests. Our focus also is the PLC work. And our PLC work does not focus on state tests. Our PLC work focuses on the first question of PLC is, what do we want students to know and be able to do? How do they show us? And so our focus and double efforts this year is to make sure our teachers, when people ask, what do you do with that PLC time? Why do we have a late start? Our teachers work intimately together, working on, do we know what we want our students to know and be able to do? They start with the state standards, and then they also use their own professional expertise, their approved curriculum, and say, what do we want students to be able to do in 8th grade math, for instance? And then from there, they have to say, and how do we know if they've learned it? And so our focus is on student growth goals, creating goals that students are part of and own that process of achieving and showing that they know what we want them to know and be able to do. So the majority of our time and effort spent in PLC work are on the teachers working together to create, we'll call them tests, but that doesn't necessarily mean a 3-page exam every time. It's, are we checking to know that they know what they're supposed to know? And if they're not, then we have systems in place to help them get there,
Maybe oftentimes it's the result of motivation. And so we have a lot of motivating ways to help kids improve their academic performance. That's in a nutshell kind of our PLC work and striving for academic excellence. Our goal within our PLC work is to see kids on all those tests. I use the term loosely. We want to see kids growing. And we want kids to go, I want to get better at citing my sources when I'm writing. And so they set goals for themselves on improving that area. And we know that if they're growing, the results on the state tests and those things are going to take care of themselves. Second goal of, I'll just call it Ohana. So it's student belonging, right alongside what Troy said and what the district has is we want kids to feel like they belong at school, that they're part of the middle school, and that they're part of a family is really what we strive for. We don't make any excuses. If you have a perfect family, that's the first joke, because the middle school's family is not perfect. But we strive at all times to have kids seek to restore when problems exist with one another. We rely heavy upon our Flex program. So Flex for us is our homeroom. We have a daily period, 25 minutes long of homeroom. And once a week, we have a class called Voices. Those are 18 students, hand-selected from every different social group. Think of Breakfast Club movie. Of all the different walks of life. We bring those kids together. Katie Tucker then gets them to say, what do we need to talk to kids about? And then we send kids into our homeroom classes once a week to teach lessons on the different aspects of school life. And that is, and continues to be, even though we've been doing it for years and years and years and years, when your child is a seventh grader, that is their seventh grade year. And it's not old hat for them. It's their 1 year in seventh grade. So we really focus from me to the teachers to the students on it needs to stay fresh. It needs to stay relevant. Last is our family involvement and connected to families. We did for the first time, I don't know why it was the first time, I'll say completely my fault for not doing it before, but we did a sixth grade orientation with all of our sixth grade families, really well attended, really well received, of just about 15 to 20 minutes of seeing all the teachers that they might hear the names of, but never get to interact with them. And then hearing what we're about in the middle school. And I hope, most importantly, opening the doors to two-way communication. Here's how we do our business. We continue to have our community service projects. We will have pie meetings, and we also use Skyward weekly to reach out to families with DNF grades and probably over communicate sometimes about some of those things, but just trying to stay connected with our families. It's really difficult to bring people in. Always open to suggestions on what would the community want to come into the school to be part of, so that we can interact with the community, our own middle school community at large.
I might be too positive, but my other daughter who is in middle school, she loves to be at school, and she's a 8th grader now. So she's been in all 3 years. And so whatever community, focus that you have there has at least worked with my child, because she has her people. She loves to be at school, the teachers. I mean, she's built relationships with all the teachers, and they've built with her. So anyway, I think that's just a testament to this Ohana idea that you guys have had. And at least with my daughter, I can speak. She really loves Deer Park Middle School. So thank you.
I will add, I was going to say something about Ohana. The turnover of staffs has been intense the last 2 years. I hired 10 people last year. I hired 10 more this year. Over half of my 10 this year we're just replacing some of the 10 from last year. It wasn't 20 new people. But when you're turning staff over and for whatever reason, districts take their teachers back, which is what happened with some of them because we hired teachers and then they got recalled back or whatever happens, retirements. We focus on staff first. If we aren't living out Ohana, if we aren't loving on one another and enjoying one another, then the kids notice. And the kids notice our staff. My staff is fantastic. No matter, it seems like who I hire, they get swallowed up in the environment that my staff has created. And because they love each other and enjoy each other and have fun with each other, the kids have fun with them. That's a great, great testament to the staff.
Can I make a comment on that? I agree, because my daughter loves to go back to the junior high and has personal conversations with so many of your kids. You have a great team there. I can attest to that.
She hates seeing me though.
She loves you no matter how much she says.
Well, no, I will double that.
Yeah.
She's a senior and she likes to go back.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we were just at the football game Thursday and 2 of your staff members came to sit with me. I mean, I can attest to that and it's great. And I love that. So thank you.
Very proud. Yeah, good.
All right. Thank you.
You're off the hot seat.
Looks like no.
Yeah, I gotta go get my kids from football. Thanks for your time.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, don't trip, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Burks. I'm principal at Arcadia. I'm going to mimic a little bit what Troy and Tim have already said. We've worked hard to have our goals pretty much mirror each other and to mirror Alexa's goals for the district. So you see those themes come up, but what that does is it helps all of us as administrators work together so that when kids go from Arcadia to the middle school to the high school, that we're using common language and common vocabulary, and our PLCs are run similarly. And we all went to the PLC conference this summer and worked together as a team. And kudos to Alexa, we've never done that before. We've never all gone to a training all together to focus on one thing. And so you'll see that theme through our school improvement plans, but Arcadia's is similar to last year. We're just trying to go a little bit deeper with our goals and be a little more intentional. So last year we added some key pieces to our school improvement plan. And the first one under the goal of academic growth and achievement was really to get staff to dig deeper into the data that they see all the time. Like Tim said, not so much the assessment data, the SBA scores at the end of the year, but data that you see all the time. End of module units, end of unit math tests, formative assessments, just how are kids doing? And then getting teachers to talk about that on a weekly basis. And I would say maybe we weren't great at that in the past, but that was a focus last year and a continued focus this year. So much of a focus is we got together as a school and planned out our PLCs for the entire school year. And so rather than just coming together and meeting with your third grade team and chit-chatting about how things are going, the meetings are very purposeful. And I know the community can't see that and parents can't see that work that we're doing, but that time on Wednesday mornings is very valuable to me, very valuable to teachers. And hopefully kids are benefiting from that time. Same with the 1 hour late start, very focused agendas. So you'll see there, I think, like the 5th bullet down on the first page, just build a PLC schedule calendar for grade level data chats with a team reflection component. So after they talk about how kids are doing and what are we going to do if they don't know it and what are we going to do if kids are doing really well, those reflections come to Steve and I, and then we're able to give them feedback. So we have a really good, tight system now, and it just feels purposeful. So that's the work we're doing around achievement for all kids. As far as the second goal, which is aligned with everyone else, just improving student well-being, I'm going to really focus on this goal when you guys come to Arcadia at the end of the month. In the past, we've focused a lot on the academics, and I feel like this year I want to focus on student well-being. It's stuff that we've been doing all along, but we often don't talk about it. Like October is, bullying prevention month. We're doing so many things for that, but we don't always share what we're doing. So when you come in a couple weeks to Arcadia, I'm going to focus on this goal and let you see some videos of some kids kind of talking about what we do to make sure that kids feel like they belong. And there definitely, most of those folks are gone right now, but there's definitely a theme here tonight of what are we doing so that kids love Deer Park and feel like they want to come to school, and what's bringing them to our schools, and what are we doing to honor that voice. So I think it's important, and it sounds like that's important tonight. We have a master schedule that is focused on intervention for kids. It's school-wide. So when we talk about kids with special needs and kids that need extra support, our calendar is our daily calendar has intervention embedded. So everybody's moving at the same time to get what they need. So if Lindsay needs help with math and she's not doing well in multiplication and her multiplication charts, she's going here. If Joey needs help with reading, he's going over here. If we have special needs kids that need extra support with physical therapy or occupational therapy, they're doing that. So our intervention schedules, if you're a third grader and you need support, you're going to get it. So everybody's moving at the same time. There's no isolation of why is Johnny getting up and walking out of the classroom and where's he going and is he different? Nobody's different because everybody's moving and shaking at the same time. So that is something that that will be a mountain I die on before I give up that schedule. So, but embedded in that is Move This World. Move This World is a curriculum around teaching kids empathy and those kind of things. And it's 5 to 8 minutes every single day, school-wide. So the kids come and have breakfast, and then our entire school does Move This World for those 5 to 8 minutes. And then we hit the ground running with academics at 9 o'clock. So that master schedule's been a big piece over the past couple of years to get that dialed in, and I feel really good about that. Last goal is, mine's a little bit different. I've embedded family engagement into every goal, but my last goal is about utilizing professional learning communities. And it's such a focus of the work that all of us administrators are doing right now, and it's such a focus on the calendar in the district. And that time is just so powerful that for 2 years in a row, we've had a goal around professional learning communities. And that's where Steve and I have focused our leadership in that area and getting out to PLCs every single Wednesday. We tag team and we go where we think we're needed. So that third goal is all about that work. And our data chats and getting feedback from teachers. And so that we're really talking about kids and student growth and what's happening if that's not happening. So really ties into what Tim and Troy are doing. I know Jolene's going to talk about that too, but the common themes here are we're all working together. So kids should be able to go from school to school and know what's happening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Good.
Thank you.
All right, Jolene.
While Jolene's coming up, I'm just gonna do the positives and be quiet. But working with Lori very closely with UTCA, Lori runs her building very smooth, and like you said, the scheduling. I love coming in there because we know exactly when we can go. And kids come first, and that's what I just love. And like you said, my kids don't even know why these kids are leaving where they're going. And I appreciate that as a parent. I think that's pretty incredible. Well done.
Thank you. All right, so I'm Jolene Vining, and I'm at Deer Park Elementary, and I am the newbie to the community. Well, not to the community, but to the school district. So I want to mimic that we are all aligned in the same work through PLC. And what you'll see in the way that our plan is written is that the PLC work becomes the vessel by which all the improvement is happening. So our academic goals are really our push this year. And you're going to hear this about social emotional is, as you know, Deer Park Elementary has had a lot of turnover. And so our goal this year is kind of just like resetting our foundation. There's great work happening. There's amazing staff, but everyone's kind of like doing their own thing because there's just been so much turnover. There's been no consistency. So as a building, we are coming together to become we. So we won't have like kinder for, we had kinder for a second, but not in silos. Like we collectively own Deer Park Elementary. And so our focus for our academics is really creating the highest quality instruction in the classroom that we can create. So through our PLC, where we're looking at what are the essential standards, what does that mean? What skills and proficiencies are required to create really good foundational skills? We are the foundational learning skills at Deer Park Elementary, right? So how do we make sure every single little ranger leaves to Arcadia with those skills in place? And so we're doing that work. So you'll hear that common thread that we're looking at what's happening in the classroom every day for every child. We have amazing intervention and amazing support work happening as well. But right now we are just hyper focused on making sure that our teachers have the tools, the skills, and the support to be the best instructors they can be for those kids. So that's our key focus in both math and ELA. We do have a new math curriculum this year. So all of our goals as far as building wide, our personal growth goals are all written in one of two math standards, which are the two key most foundational math standards for elementary. And so we are all aligned so that our conversations and our data all look the same around do the kids understand place value and do they understand basic operations. And so that is our common thread through Deer Park Elementary as we're looking at the new math curriculum. Is it meeting our needs? How is it meeting our needs? And how are those students progressing? In our culture, we are focusing on the social and emotional skills. So we are relaunching what we call PBIS, which is probably a term you've heard, but it's really the positive behavior interventions and supports. And again, at Deer Park Elementary, we don't have a consistency across that level one. We don't have a consistency of what does it mean to be a ranger? Why are we excited to be a ranger? Let's figure out what that means so that kids can really be proud of their school. So again, working on all of those systems. We're bringing assemblies back as well, although I'm doing a slower roll. I'm only pushing 3 this year. I don't want to freak the teachers out. But we want the parents back in the building. You may or may not have heard or came or whatever. We have parent lunch in the courtyard. It was a fantastic picnic. The weather was beautiful. We loved having the families in. We've had an ice cream social, or PTO had an ice cream social. I really feel like the families need to come to school. The school should be the center of the community, and we need to get the families to school. And our community needs to know and understand what's happening in our schools. And so we'd love to have community partners. We could use reading tutors. We can always use reading tutors. So we'd love to partner with people in the community for that. We also have a social emotional curriculum. It's called Second Step. It happens every classroom, every day. And it really focuses, especially at this early level, on what does it mean to be a learner and what does it mean to be a friend. So how do I do conflict resolution? What happens? How do I problem solve? But really it starts out in September with how do I pay attention and why do I need to do that? And so it's this, and it cycles from year to year. So it's all cohesive in language. So we're doing that along with our PBIS for that second goal. So again, everything is like that foundational tier 1 at Deer Park Elementary right now, so we can be consistent. And with 8 teachers per grade level, sometimes it's not consistent across the grade level. So our goal this year is that I can guarantee every single parent, no matter who your child has as a teacher, that your child will have the same quality of education that they would have in any of the other 7.
And so that's really what our goal is as far as that consistency. And then again, like I said, that family piece. I'm also one of those people that I like to create chaos in the sense that I like to have fun. So even in the elementary, our assemblies will look like a pep assembly. And so we'll get the families in there and kids will have fun, and we'll be doing some of those things. I've already spoken with Lori. We're partnering on that vertical alignment with Arcadia for some skate nights and for a literacy night. I'm partnering with Troy, and hopefully Arcadia will join us so that we can do a STEM and CTE event in the spring so that the high schoolers get to connect with the littles and we can facilitate that relationship vertically. So really just, as you know, I'm part of the community. I'm a business owner too. And so creating that community support for the schools is really important to me.
So I don't know, what business do you?
I'm sorry. Yes, you buy one. Oh, I just always call myself a business owner. But we are very supportive of the community, and even though we are like our actual business is 21 and over, we participate in Pumpkin Lane and all the things because community and education matters.
So for the record, do school board members get this? So I want to say great use of the courtyard. Finally putting that dead space to use with the parent involvement. So
I'm very excited about that. I have some other ideas, although facilities and maintenance aren't happy with me about them right now, so I'll just keep plugging along. But anyway, I'm loving Deer Park, and we have some great work happening at that.
Welcome. Yes. I still have my picture of my daughter and I from Muffins and Mom from my set. So keep bringing those parent things.
Yeah.
Because then they get older and then they don't want us there, but we have these pictures.
And parents are always willing at the little age to come back, right? So,
Thanks, Jolene. Gretchen.
I'm Gretchen Hogman, I'm public principal. This is my second year. So just a little population update, and depending on when you guys got that, I updated my numbers today. We are at 617 students, and 467 of them are 100% FTE. So there's we have our kids doing different programs, and we share a few kids with other schools and things like that. So just a reminder that our goal at HomeLink is to support and not replace the instruction done at home. So everything that we talk about and all the goals that we make at HomeLink have to do with support. So the first one is, our first goal is family support. And so we are always seeking ways to foster that family and community engagement within our school. And a big thing is that we're working alongside of our families every single day. And so something new that we started last year, because I heard parents say, well, you know, I don't like math. So we kind of maybe teach that once in a while. And I thought, no, like, we can't just teach it once in a while. So we really started working last year on instilling that love of math throughout our building. And we had a team, they were the math team, and we even made some of our Kristen Jansen wore a math t-shirt because we said we have to promote this love of math in our building. So that was a big thing, but we brought in parent workshops, and we asked the families, what do you need a workshop on? And so we've been doing various workshops. Last year we did a reading one that focused on phonics and how to teach reading to your young learners, because they don't get that good foundation to start off with. And then they're like, oh, we're frustrated with this homeschooling thing. And they're sending them back to the brick and mortar. And then, they're third, fourth, fifth grade, and they're not reading yet. And so we don't want that happening. We want to make sure that parents feel supported in their homeschooling journey. And so that's something that we really focus on. We had a Step Up to Writing workshop last year. And by the way, these workshops are all taught by our parents, which is super helpful because then they're hearing from people that are doing the work. So we did a Step Up to Writing one last spring, and it was so popular, bringing it back this year as well. So another piece that through my listening last year, I heard that people are like, I just need to meet other people doing it. You all know as educators, we love talking to other educators, right? And so some of our moms and dads who homeschool were like, I need to know someone else doing this too. And so this year we brought in, we had a new families retreat where right before school started, we brought in all of our new families, and we did a morning where they got to be connected with a mentor and talk with them. And we had some great discussions happening at the table, and some funny things and some more serious. Like, what do you do when your kid just says, "I'm not going to do it today, Mom"? And so those things that happen when you're homeschooling at the kitchen table. So it was only 2 hours, and looking back, I think we maybe should have done a little bit longer because it was I think it was pretty cool. It was a good turnout too. We also, first time this year, had our kiddos that are doing some of our academic program with our high school. Those families felt like, we don't know these people that are, sharing in this work with us. And so we had a day where they could come and meet the specialists that are working with our high schoolers. And so that was really well attended. It actually filled this room. And so that showed me that it was definitely needed. So family support is a big goal that we have. We just formed our HOPE committee, and that's going to be our parent support group that we're excited about. So we, again, providing those resources. Our consultants are being really intentional with checking in with families, saying, okay, the curriculum that you're using is working for you. Do you have questions? And making sure that, there's this book that they got in September and they've left it on a shelf, and now it's April because they didn't know what to do with it. And that's not what we want anybody to ever feel. We want them to know that, hey, if there's something you need support with, you need to let us know. So our consultants are working on that. We're also just making sure that we are supporting students' learning plans and just really that emphasis on math and ELA growth with our students. Goal 2 is student support. And so some of the things that we're doing there are providing various academic support, really intentional check-ins with students, especially our high schoolers. Our consultants are really working to, if they see one of their kiddos struggling, they're actually meeting with those students as well. I just saw today a consultant was setting up hey, every Thursday you need to be in my office at 9:00, and we're meeting and talking. And so, and then having some essential targets, especially for our younger learners and first graders, like by the end of kindergarten, your kiddo should be able to do this. And then just creating some new opportunities. We've got some new leadership opportunities happening. One of our specialists, like her thing, and she's just taking off and running with it, and excited about that. Really looking at that goal in school to career preparation, and then we're providing some new reading and math interventions. And then our third goal is around staff support. We had 13 new specialists this year, and most of them have never delivered any kind of instruction before. They have a passion for something. That's been where I've been spending a lot of my time, is supporting them in how to just be in the classroom and that classroom management. So our staff meetings are being more intentional this year. And so we also were doing a little PLC reset. PLC at HomeLink has looked very different, probably than your other buildings. And so we took those 4 key questions that the other buildings used, and we put a little twist on them for HomeLink. And so what do we want students and their families to know and be able to achieve together is our first one. How will we collaboratively assess and recognize their learning and growth as a family? How will we support and guide families? And then if they're facing some learning challenges, and then how will we enrich and extend learning opportunities for families who are already thriving? And so through that, we formed 3 special teams. 2 were formed last year. So one is our math focus team, one is our vocational focus team, and then the third one is academic support team. And so they are meeting also using some of their PLC time to meet as a team and develop some of those things that we're doing here at HomeLink. And then just providing support for all staff. Our paras are in 2 different buildings, can spread across. And so we've started to have some intentional meeting times for them so that they feel like they can come together and address concerns that they have. And I feel like it's showing in their job performance. And so I'm excited about that. And then just increasing that staff development, those opportunities for our staff so they can feel successful. And like I said, we have currently, we've got 44 seniors this year, so almost double from last year. and 38 kindergartners, and 42 at Running Start, 15 at Skills Center, and then we share a couple of kids at the high school, middle school, and DPP. So, and 36 in our outdoor ed program this year. So that is huge. We cap it at 40. So for first semester, 36 up there. So.
Well, first off, if you wouldn't mind joining me in a round of applause for our school administrators. I just continuously be amazed with the fact that we've had some new folks, right? Jolene and Chad, Troy, Gretchen, right? We've had Anya, a lot of new folks, and they all just hit the ground running. They've done amazing work. They're working with their staff. I think great things are happening. So just kudos to you guys. Good work. Really proud of you. Also, just those of you guys running assemblies, if you wouldn't mind reminding me, because I know maybe you guys might enjoy coming to some of those too. I like to try to come. I learned about Troy's assembly this morning, but it was too late because I already had another meeting. But I like to come and just see, because I also like to be inspired. And that's my joy, comes from watching you guys and the work that you do with kids. I think that you were able to hear some consistent, coherent messages around the goals. That was part of my goal this year, because we were all kind of in different places. And so, as Lori talked about, we started with the PLC conference this year and really gave us a foundation as a leadership team to continue moving forward. Their voices are just as important and a part of the district plan as their teachers' voices are with their plans. So it's just all wrapped together. And so you see some consistency, you see some coherence, but then they each put their own flavors in terms of their buildings and meeting the needs of their own students and age levels and those kinds of things. So happy National Principals Month, principals. Well done. Super proud of you. And you don't have to stay K5 if you don't want to stay for the next part of the conversation, but just super proud of the work that they've done. They've done tremendous work. So way to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys want to move a little closer? 60-12 team? And you can go if you want to go. No, it's WIAA.
Oh, okay.
So this was a request that was put in by a couple of board members earlier. And so Eric, who's online, had asked me to put this on the agenda. And so I have the rules. But this specific request really wanted us to take a look at current WIAA academic rules, I believe, if I'm getting that correct. The current Deer Park High School current high school athletic rules to be able to participate. So this request came from a couple board members, so I have this to pass out to them. And so anyway, opening it up for discussion, maybe you want to take a minute to review. The first page is the academic information according to WIAA. And then the next couple of pages are Deer Park High School's academic requirements. And so I think that the request that I was getting is, are we consistent? Are the academic requirements high enough? Is the bar high enough for kids? And then
a brief overview.
Sure.
Yes.
That would be great.
Be easier probably than you guys trying to read through all that.
Yes.
So the WIA basically says you have to be in good academic standing. They don't specify what that is. They leave that up to school districts themselves. When it comes to failing classes, they have language in there based off of trimesters or semesters. The previous one, depending on when that is, depends on what, as athletic directors, we have to do for those students. It's changed over the last 4 years. It used to be pretty strict, where if you fail the class, you are then ineligible for 5 weeks going forward. That language has changed. The new language is in there where essentially you just put them on an academic probation period of 3 weeks, and then you check their progress as they go. If during that 3 weeks they fail a class, then they go on a 5-week suspension period. If they stay within good academic standing according to your school district rules, then after that 3-week period, they're off of probation and go just normal, whatever your school district policy is. So with our school district policy, and it's been this way for since I was a coach 15 years ago till now, it's been the same, where we hold our kids to, if they're failing a class, they cannot participate in games, in competitions. the WIA requires each school district to run grade checks between 3 and 6 weeks. You can do a 6-week grade check, you can do a 3-week grade check for high school, depending on what you want to do as a district. We at the high school are on the front end of that. We want 3 weeks because we think if we go 6 week and it's a 10-week basketball season or 12-week basketball season, we're not checking very often. So I check grades every 3 weeks. At the start of the season, the 3-week grade period, I pull grades on Monday. And any kid that is failing one class, they get a notification through Final Forms to them, their parent, and their coach saying that athlete is ineligible for competition. They can go to practice, but they cannot compete in the competition until that grade is up. Now, do a grade check on Monday. Let's just say football, and for instance, if I do a grade check on Monday and this kid is failing, they can't participate on Friday unless they get it up and come and show me that grade is up. So on Thursday, if that kid comes to my office and says, hey, I got my grade up, I check Skyward, I look, it's up, I change that notification in Final Forms to cleared, and then their parent, themselves, and their coach get a clearance email saying that they're cleared for participation. If they don't fail, or if they continue to fail and they don't come to me, they stay ineligible until they are passing all their classes.
Is D passing?
Yes.
Okay.
According to our standard, a D is passing. Yes. 60% or better is passing. Okay. Yes. I do kind of, if I have frequent flyers, if you will, and kids that I do other grade checks, we do other grade checks throughout the school in different programs. If we notice there's kids that maintain that or sit on that line of 60%, and they, as we're going through, we'll look, and our coaches actually do a really good job of continuing to look during that time frame between the 3 weeks of the grade check. Coach will continue to check on kids and look, and hey, you're failing. They work with them really well to make sure that we're not just checking one time and then forgetting about it, and then checking another time and then forgetting about it, right? We continue to monitor those kids. We know our frequent flyer kids, and we know the kids that struggle. I will say that one of the big things that with grade checks, and I know Tim has the same process in his mind about this, is sports are a big motivator for kids to do well in class. And so being able to have those conversations, hey, let's work on this. How can we help you? And I had a conversation today with a kid about his grades. He had multiple failing grades, and I caught him at lunch and said, hey, what can I do to help you? Can you go talk to my teachers for me? I can't talk to teachers. So sure, be happy to. So I sent some emails to teachers and talked to those teachers for that kid. So that's the nuts and bolts of the high school.
You want the middle school's nuts or bolts? So we check weekly because our seasons are 6 to 7 weeks long. They're very quick seasons. We check grades weekly. We are focused on maintaining participation at practice. They may not have more than one F because WIA says in a 6-period day, they can have an F and participate. They can't have 2 Fs. If they are failing any class or have a D, it's in there, but I don't think we have an academic tracker that they have to take around to each of their teachers. And that tracker doesn't just show whether they're passing or not. It says, are you making progress? Are you giving a good effort? And you have a good attitude. So if a child, let's say, had an F and they got a tracker and they took this to their classes and they ended up getting that F up to a D, but maybe 2 of their other classes slid to a D, and that would make them still eligible. But if two of their teachers said they're not giving effort and their attitude stinks, it has to be more than one teacher because we never want to pit one teacher against one child. But if two or more of their teachers mark the tracker as not satisfactory in those areas, they will not play. And what we do is, because we're weekly, they're suspended for a week. Then the following week, they get another tracker, they get another chance to show that they've made the improvement to do what they need to do. Again, the goal of keeping the hook in their mouth and keeping them believing that if they get their stuff done, if they do a good job, if they have a good attitude, they can keep participating. So it's carrots and sticks. It's not a large stick process of whapping kids over the head and keeping them out. We've had probably 3 kids so far sit out games this year because of multiple Fs and not doing their work. So the majority of kids, if Ms. Pointer is passing out 30 trackers at the beginning, so this will go out tomorrow morning. 29 of them are going to come back better by the end of the day because they've done what they needed to do in order to get there. To me, that's the whole goal, is to keep the hook in mouth and keep them performing academically. Quite frankly, our problems are when sports end. It's not during sports that we have a problem. It's when the kid does not participate and they don't have anything that they're connected to.
So these are for all athletic kids?
All athletic kids who have a D or an F at any given moment weekly. But checked on Tuesday because all of our grades in our building are expected to be up to date by Monday before they go home.
I thought it was interesting to listen to Dr. Swinard too at the director's meeting earlier this week. Every kid in an activity is his goal, right? So it is, you're right, it's a motivator and it keeps kids involved and it keeps them from going out and having idle time at home or out in the community.
So is there any other like after school activity or extracurricular activity that has these standards? Is that applied like to drama? Is that applied to?
At this point, no. Troy and I actually had that conversation a couple weeks ago when talking about the utilization of Final Forms and what we use it for. There's no current grade check, if you will, for any of that activities currently that we personally do from a school level. Now I know some of the advisors themselves will do it. I know when band goes on trips, they say, hey, these kids are going. Do you have any issues with their grades? If you do, let me know, and they will not go. I know FFA does the same thing. DECA does the same thing. Those groups that leave on trips and those kids are going to be missing school, those advisors do that on their own just to ensure that when they're pulling kids out, for a week for whatever they're going to, they want to make sure those kids are passing and not in danger of failing. So those advisors will send those lists out and make sure that that's happening.
There's no set policy. It's dependent upon the teacher.
There's no direct policy for activities. No.
Gotcha.
But that's something that we're looking at doing, and we think it's an important piece of making sure that activities and athletics, if we're holding everybody the same standard, in high school, we think that needs to be done. So that's kind of on one of our goals this year is to work towards that.
Did you say that when you pull grades, it goes automatic to the email to the?
It doesn't go automatic. So when the kid's failing, so in Final Forms, there's a lot of stuff we can do in there. One of the things is a academic clearance. So it's something new that I've done this year because of abilities that there's so much that Final Forms can do that I'm learning still. But one of them is a button I can turn red from green that says they're failing. I put a message in that stating why. I don't give any real details, just say you're not following our academic policies. And then when I submit that as an uncleared portion, it sends an email to the parent, the kid, and the coach.
And then you teased me with the comment that you went and talked to the teachers. So on behalf of the student, is the student there? Or, and what was the outcome?
And that just happened today. There hasn't been an outcome because there are other things within that, but.
And it was a one-off, but it just.
Yeah.
Maybe next question.
Yeah. We just try to do what we can for the Sunday. Again, as you guys all know, some kids have a hard time talking to adults. And when they're struggling in that class, they have a hard time. And so, being a trusted adult for some of those kids, it's kind of easier for us to help out in that aspect.
So, hey, Craig, okay. We brought this up about, or I brought this up like, I don't know, everything's 5 to 10 years ago for me, but we brought this up and Joe Feist talked me out of changing because I wanted to raise the bar, right? I wanted to go from 60 to say a C, from a D to a C. And he said, you know, a lot of times, and to Tim's point, that's what's keeping these kids, the hook, the proverbial hook in there, keeping these kids in school. And a lot of times it's it's the guys, right? It's our football players, our wrestlers, our basketball players that are in there. Most of the time, it's not the girls. I'm not saying that can't happen, but we want to keep as many kids hooked in, trying to get them to do better. And sports is a way to, you know, that's something they love. And I liked Adam Swinyard's thing, you know, every kid an activity. Sometimes these sports are all these kids have. They don't have great home lives. They don't have other things. And Joe talked me off the fence about raising the bar. I think I like the idea of having it a bar for every activity, you know, so that we don't send kids away on a week-long trip or even a day trip. If they're doing a bad job in class, they shouldn't be rewarded by being let miss more class, right? But I think that we could do this by emphasizing to Troy and Chad and Cam and Tim and David that this is something we're really looking at, and we want to know some statistics, you know, maybe bring it back to us in a couple months as to how many kids we're talking about and how many kids that, you know, what their recommendation would be at that point, rather than trying to make decisions or anything. But I think getting a little more data would be good to know, you know, like how many kids are being held back, how many kids missed games, how many kids did other things. And that might help us make the decision to maybe raise it from 6 to 5 or something in there, you know, based on their recommendations. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm following you, and thank you, Eric, for sharing your past knowledge and continuing knowledge now. I guess one of the questions I have is the other way. So I have talked with students, and because an F is only required, they say, well, an F is only required, so I'm fine with a D or a C. So I'm baffling a little bit with that, because some of these athletes are only striving to that point, no matter how hard you're trying, right, to continue to strive academically on behalf of the staff and things like that. And so along with the statistics, how are we encouraging our athletes and our club members to go beyond the requirement, not just because it's academic that they're being encouraged to then, but even involved in those academics? Now, I get it. We have, right, we do amazing. Our basketball girls, right, they were, I can't remember what it was called, 3.96 grade point average.
Yeah, that's a different group.
I mean, right. But how we bring those kids that are, again, athletes, for instance, that are choosing to not be A students because they don't need to be, or B students because they don't need to be. So I think that's the other perspective. And now, I was one of the broad questions because that's been kind of working on my mind.
And me as well. So I'm just going to read you our vision. Ensuring the future by inspiring excellence. This doesn't sound like excellence when we're accepting an F or a D. Like, that's not excellence. Where did the rigor go? So that's my question. Like, we need to set the bar and push kids to reach that bar. They're capable. They can do it. I've been an educator. And like Rebecca said, you lower the bar, that's where they're going to go. If we have the bar here, we can push those kids. And I don't want to lose any of these kids who, sports are everything, but they have to be pushed. They're going out into the real world. They got to go get jobs. You don't get to be like, I don't want to go work today, because you know what happens. Like, it's okay to have high goals. And if our vision and mission is high goals, then we push them to that, or we need to change our mission vision. That's my 2 cents. But I was going to point out the middle school because we both got the middle school one, and in it says the kids can have an F and play in a game. And I'm like, they're failing a class and you're going to let them play? That's not right.
I like our teachers and our coaches to have it sounds like they have the flexibility, and I'd like them to be able to continue to have that. And I'm thinking of my sister who had come home with 2 Fs. And I remember my dad writing her hard, you got to be able to graduate and this and this. So she pulled him up to like C's and D's. Then she went on to be a travel agent and got straight A's because she then cared. So I think the kids are getting D's, and it's not that it's not important enough to them. They don't see the importance. They're too young to understand. So I think the staff probably, but if you raise the bar, and then I'd be afraid of, say the same assessment that Joe had was you lose those kids. And if they're working with the F kids, hey, you got to pull it up to a D. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, that I don't know the exact data. I have to research it a little bit, but I would venture to guess about 75% of these Fs are lab kids and sped kids that struggle anyways.
Well, I was going to say, but then don't they have an IEP that they don't have to be held to that same standard?
It doesn't necessarily change their grade, though. There are accommodations that they get. Yes, there are potential modifications that they can get to their assignments. But that doesn't necessarily change that grade per se. And so there are a lot of those kids that do struggle academically that are doing their darndest. I could pull that away, sports away from them as that carrot, like you said. But I agree. I think we need to hold these kids to a high standard. I really do. There's just a balance there of making sure that if we're holding them to a high standard, that we have systems in place for those kids that are on 504, on an IEP, are lap supported, that really, really struggle during their day academically.
Well, I'd be curious, and maybe this has already been done, but the twist of taking those kids that have IEP and so forth, and they have a different scale. They have an F, but everybody else has a D. I mean, it's a scenario where we raise the bar where we can raise the bar, and their bar is already raised in a sense, right? But everybody else doesn't mean their bar should drop.
And then playing down devil's advocate, then you get kids that talk, right? And you have a kid that's playing with a D, and this kid's can't play with a D, and their parents talk, and now, well, why does my kid get to play with a D, but his kid doesn't?
Exactly.
And you get that back and forth, and we can't say, well, that kid's on an IEP, so he gets a grade. That becomes.
It also brings into account Homelink, because we have Homelink kids that play at the high school, and those parents give their kids grades. They sign off on that. So if we have kids that are at the high school, say that are getting a D or whatever, and we have parents at Homelink and the kids talk too, And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, well, I don't do math hardly at all. And I'm getting, the other kid's getting a D in math. So this is a big can of worms. I agree we need to raise the bar, but I think we need to get some data to maybe look at what we're doing. And maybe Cam can put together at the end of this season, like start a next season and come back and talk to us. Maybe say, okay, this time we had 10 kids that were on the bubble of whatever. And I think you're going to see that different numbers per sport, but probably the same kids per sport. You know, so you got football players who also wrestle. You got soccer players who also play basketball or softball, or, you know, those type of things. It's good to raise the bar, but I think we need more information. And I agree, Lindsay, about the inspiring excellence. I brought this up. I really wanted to change it and make it hard, make the bar up. I think that's a great idea. But somehow we need to make that bar, we need a level bar for everybody. And we need to be able to explain to people how we got to where we're planning on going. So that we need staff help on guidance through this process.
But I think I heard Cam say that if you do raise the bar, you'd have to have even greater resources to help those kids to get to that higher bar mark. Like if you make it a C instead of a D.
Potentially you do. You know, a couple other things to think about. As a, you know, I taught special education for 6 years. And what is excellence to one student may not be excellence to another student, right? So a kid that struggles and gets D's and is working really, really hard, doing their darndest, their D might be excellence, right? Whereas a kid that, sorry, I'm really passionate about this. A kid that is an honor student, a B may not be excellence to them, right? So it's hard to quantify what excellence means when you have this variety of difference in students' learning abilities, right?
Well, to spin off on that, I mean, it depends on the subject too. You know, because I know from experience, I was a 3-sport athlete, horrible at math. I could not retain the processes of math and numbers for some reason, maybe dyslexia, I don't know, could not retain numbers and remember numbers very well. So I really struggled in math, excelled in English, and was a B average student. But, you know, there were times in math where I hovered around the D to the F. And, you know, so I wonder, to your point, not everybody's the same. And I'd be interested to see the numbers on. So the one big thing I think is follow through, because we have these set policies. We need to make sure that the follow through is there, that if a student does fall below that line, that they do feel the weight and the consequence of their lack of attention on that subject. Because if you're a male football player and you have to miss one game, being out in the trenches with your brothers, I mean, that's like a Marine who's told he can't go overseas with his team. You know, so it's devastating, it's motivating, but that's not going to be the same for all. It might not be the same for, you know, women on the basketball team or whatever. So, yeah, so I think to Eric's point, I think getting the data back would be important in making that decision.
I also wanted to correct something about Home Lake because I don't want the parents jumping on it. But Home Lake parents, yes, we make our grades for our students, but we have to prove their grade. I don't just get to say you get an A in math. I have to prove to my consultant my child earned an A. So
yeah. And
it's not as easy as it sounds.
And I also will say I reach out to Gretchen, and she reached out to me when there's a high school student that's doing sports that's not performing well. We communicate weekly. She says, hey, so-and-so is not doing very good in this class, not showing up, not doing work. Can you check in with them? And we do that. So yeah, they get D's and F's as well. It's just.
Okay. I didn't mean to, I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't mean to touch a nerve, Lance.
I don't want backlash.
And then the last point I'll make is, and unfortunate as it is, our kids can graduate, can earn credits with Ds.
That's what I was going to say that too.
And so that's another piece that how easy is it to say, you can graduate with a D, but you can't play sports with a D. It's kind of hard to tell a parent. So that's another, I agree. We got to hold our kids to excellence. I'm struggling with my 7th grade daughter right now with it too. Because she's lazy, just like a lot of kids are. And it's tough to say, hey, you can't do this, you can't, because you're not doing well in class. And you know, so, but I think we all agree we need to hold our kids accountable. We need to hold our kids to a high standard. Just where do we want to go? What hill do we want to die on? And
I guess my question too is, where else can we show that we're raising the bar, right? So what other mechanisms do we have to highlight high student achievement, right? Or students who have high GPAs or whatever outside of athletics and sports, right? Are there other ways? I know you guys do a 4.0 or something at the end of every quarter at the middle school.
I think the key word, excellence is important. I think Cam defined excellence being different for everyone really well. I think the key word, and I think what you're looking for, is accountability.
Yeah.
And so, like Rebecca, to your point, a kid who's skating by and hitting the lowest part of the bar possible on our system should be held accountable through their attitude, effort, and progress if they're not showing that in multiple arenas. So, and then the difference between the middle school and the high school is, again, our seasons are 6 to 7 weeks long. And it's one football week that is like missing 2 games at the high school level. And so the impact is weak. Maybe we should be looking at missing a half or something like that. The last thing I'll add is, anytime you're talking about grades, we have done extensive work on this, and I know this is passionate for Troy going forward over the next coming years. Not all A's are equal. Not all C's are equal. Not all F's are equal. And so grading practices are highly relevant to this conversation, because if you set the bar for the teacher to be able to do something, they have all kinds of creative ways to meet it if you don't have clean grading practices in the classroom. Again, I know that this is a passion of Troy's to tackle. It's not something you tackle overnight. We did it over a 3-year period of time in our building of really digging in on grading practices, probably about 9 years ago. And we continue to bring it up every year, what we adhere to and what we agree to, so that ideally, hopefully, when we say it's a C, it's an achievement level C, not a behavior of how they're acting, but what they're achieving to. And so it's very difficult. And there's all, I can carry out on a guy like Cam about the beginning of a semester is so much different than the end of a semester. You can have, our grades are fluctuating like weekly with insane number of F's to B's or A's with one assignment being turned in, because you have so few points with percentages. It changes so very quickly. So when you're checking every week, I mean, it is very labor intensive for Morgan to do and what I've asked her to do. And
I would also, I guess my 2 cents too, is we have to be careful when it comes to grading also, is that there are students, my brother as an example, middle of the road grade wise. There are students that is their best, or that is kind of where they land with school, because it may or may not be their favorite thing in the world to do. But at the same time, he's gone on to be very successful in his career. And I'm sure we can also, on the other side of it, see, there's probably plenty of examples of A and B students that are struggling in life or may not be doing super well, down the road too. So it's not always an indication of kind of, once you get that diploma, it's up to everybody at that point to kind of what you do with that post-secondary piece. So we have to be careful that, you know, with the barriers sometimes that we're not setting barriers in place that post-high school.
And I hope in coming across the question of just that dialogue and understanding and get the data, that's really what it's about, is coming from where we're coming from.
And maybe there's a way we could do away with, say, if you have an F, you don't get to play for, I mean, if you slide into that F category, we can make it a little tougher without changing the rule. If you go to that, if you have an F, you don't get to play in the next game, no matter what. You have to have a D for a week, you know? So if just changing it, raising the bar a little bit, and I agree, the F is really, really bad, but maybe there's a way we could look at changing part of the thing without changing the whole thing as well.
And in between, maybe it's a conversation of talking to coaches and they don't start. I mean, it's a scenario where there's a couple of things that you can play with a little bit of discipline while I'm with.
Yeah, we just got to be careful because all the parents, the coaches are going to have to deal with all the parents. So we need to set a livable bar that's achievable, explainable, and everything to the parents. So
You should have seen all our faces when they said it at the parent meeting at football. And they're like, you can have one F and still play. And we all looked at each other like, what?
Sign me up.
Yeah, but there's some parents that don't do that, Linz.
So we'll be in study hall instead of practice if they have an F. And it's, again, it's about accountability.
Yeah,
So-
accountability.
Yeah.
Like
We got to move along, but do we have any other questions on this topic?
So what I'm hearing just in closing is let's get some more data and information.
Yeah, well, just remember too, like, you know, we're gonna be looking into, there's a lot of school districts, many that I've worked in where your athletic and your institute needs to put together in regards to the expectation of being the same for both across the board, so.
And the other, I guess, nuance that we're looking at for you guys to know is currently, the way our handbook reads, and it's been like that since before me, is a student is only accountable for the sport that they're in. So that's with drugs and alcohol, grades and whatnot. Let's say a kid goes to a party on a Friday night and is a basketball player right now. There's no accountability at all. If it's basketball season, there is, but if they're basketball only. So there's a lot of schools that have an athletic code for 365 days a year. Ours is not. Ours is only during that sports season. So we've been in conversations on if we would like to make that move to it. And then how does that look and how do we roll that out correctly for information's sake for parents, and how do we navigate that, because that's a big change. And you know, so a kid makes a mistake during the summer, right? And it gets to us and they're a baseball player. So now to keep track of that throughout that whole school year, and so that's when we decide to make any changes at all. Obviously, that's going to come to you guys first, but that's something we're thinking about and navigating as well.
So currently the way the rule exists, if let's say a summer camp for football, an incident happens during the summer camp, is that then applied to the season, or is it viewed in the same kind of way?
No, because he's technically not in season, if you will. You have to kind of look at that. I guess if it's football camp, I guess you would assume that it's during football season, yes. It's a good question. Yeah.
It's a little gray when you're policy is, yeah.
Right.
But you're on summer break. You're still under the care of your mom and dad. They're the guardian at that point.
So technically, no. Yeah. So there's a lot of gray area with that I've never liked. And so, but again, we have to be careful with making those changes and making sure we're transparent about why, what we're going to do.
Well, it's an incredibly nuanced issue, and I applaud you guys for paying close attention to that, working on that, and yeah. So thank you for doing that. Okay. We have one action item here to consider. That's to approve school improvement plans, policy 205. So need a motion, then discussion.
Move to approve.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I think they did a pretty decent job. I know you kind of teed it up with us, correct? And then they took it back to the principals and they've done a fine job of kind of adhering to what we were looking for. So I think they did a good job all the way around.
I heard a lot of things in there that we were asked for. So
Yep.
fantastic.
You talk cohesion and complementary, and I think you did that super well.
Well, kudos to the team.
Okay. All in favor of approving school improvement plan policy 2005? Say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Action, whatever passes, motion passes. Okay, that's all we have for the meeting.
All right. Thanks.
Adjourn. Oh.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye, Eric.
How about that?
Thank
Goodbye.
you.